Hello, this is Cookie. Today's lesson, and this is a longer one than usual, but we are going to be playing around with Camera Raw. This is my absolute favorite filter tool to abuse and overuse. We're going to come up to the drop down and click on Camera Raw Filter. That shortcut is Shift-Control-A. Give it a moment to load. There we go. And there are some very basic things that you can do with this, a lot of things that you can play with to cheat. I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. You'll find your own favorite options to work with. And again, for calibration, this is going to give you some different things to look at. Now, as I'm going through this, I really don't see any color changes. If your vision is better than mine, you might. But again, if we play with this a little bit, yeah, I still don't see any changes. This is not one that I use, however, I wanted to walk through it briefly. For effects, grain, if you want that grainy look, and vignetting, if you want a dark vignette, and I'm going extremes, but again to the far left for black, to the far right for white, again just depending on what you're trying to achieve. Bring it back to 0 there. Geometry, this is to transform. And this is their manual transformations. I'll bring that back up. And again, this wouldn't be so much for working with a model. I'm going to bring these back to 0, but if you have a building that you want to change the perspective on, a road, coming toward you, going away steps, anything that you really need to have a big impact on that you don't want to try to do manually, this is a good place to play with that and see what kind of a result you can achieve. Optics, defringing. I am not as familiar with defringing as I could be. I'm assuming based on this having a sample fringe color dropper that you are going to clean up a color. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Oh, that's funky. Anyhow, we'll take that back to 0. Again, that's the thing I love about this. You can pretty much reset anything. Split toning. You can see you can bring in that second color. I'm going to take this back down for saturation. And again, play with it as you like. That was for highlights. You can also do shadows and again bring in that two-toner, as they call it, split tone. And I kind of cheated and we didn't really get a lot here. So we do the purple here. Let's do the green there. And again, just depending on what you want to end up with. So I'm going to bring that back down for saturation. There we go. And color mixer. And again, these are just sliders for you to play with. This will work with colors already existing. Bring that back to 0. Again, just because I want to start with this clean as we go forward. There we go. And detail. This is one I overuse horribly. And just remember, anything that you do in Camera Raw, ideally you want to work with this toward the end of the design when you have your composite completely built, rather than at the beginning, because you don't want to have to go through Camera Raw 16 times. It's fun to do, but it's a bit of a time waster. It's better, more of something to finish your AV than to start with. And this, you get that much softer blended look. And then bring it out just a little bit more. This is how you get that perfect skin look that nobody actually ever has. And again, just depending on what you want to do. And you do need to be very careful because, one, of course, you can overdo it and make them look a little grainy, bring out things like here you can see there are lines under her eyes. And if you want a more natural look, you want to go much softer on this noise reduction and color noise reduction. Curves, just like the curves we played with. You can do your white balance, darks here, and again just, I get my mouse there, slide it in and out, up and down. Same thing on the black side, and again, easy to get things a little goobered around, and then your red, green, blue. Your basic here, this one I use quite a bit. You can have this correct a white balance for you. If you don't like it, go back to as shot. You can play with your temperature, your tint. Again, I want to bring these back to center. because this isn't the part that I want to focus on yet. Typically, when I'm working through this, and again, exposure, this one I do want to touch real quickly. You've seen a lot of the AVs that have that very dark feel to them, and what they've done is played with the exposure. And that is right here. So you have so much, again, that you can just readjust and see what looks good and what loses everything that you're doing. There we go. Contrast is another fun one to play with. But again, bring that back to, ooh, that was a little crazy. Okay. Okay. We will come up here. The one that you may use the most is going to be browsing through color. I'm going to ignore embedded because that just showed up and I had not seen it before. Okay. This gives you another drop down here. These are for your color. I'm going to start with artistic. And again, this is one of those simple, quick ways to jump into Camera Raw and just let it do things for you. Now, what I will share with you as we go through, and I just want to see, let's go with this because it has that fun purplish look to it. You can adjust the amount with the slider underneath. You can still make corrections. I accidentally jumped here to black and white. But again, you can see you can go really dramatic. And a really good conversion to a black and white image. This one, for instance, has got some really great contrast to it. What they have done, the computer, is playing with all the other color balances and exaggerating them so that you come up with something like this. So it's a great cheat way to go into a black and white. I'm going to jump to modern. Every image is going to be different, and it may show you more or less options just based on what colors are in that image. I'm so torn here. Let's go with this one just because it's a little bit different. I'm going to come up here to the back option on profile, and then I'm going to play again with the exposure. You don't have to, but again, just so that you can see all the different fun things you can do. And bring up highlights, bring up shadows, and this is, again, I'm just having fun. There is no right and wrong with this. The biggest thing, can you still see your image? Are you losing more than you're gaining? Are you emphasizing? Because you're going for what enhances the image versus just making it look busy. Because, like, for instance, we can bring that contrast all the way up. Her skin gets really weird yellow glow to it. It's still pretty, but it's too far. Same with your saturation. She looks like jaundice from hell. So let's bring that back to 0. And from here, what I'm going to do, come backward. We still have this that we can adjust up or down. So if you want to try to bring up some of this detail and then soften, for instance, under the eyes. And again, you can always readjust this after. You could come in with a very soft smudging brush and take care of this under the eyes. If you really wanted to, you could get rid of that dark shadow, but I think it adds a little bit of depth and character to the face. But I am going to slide this to the side. And you see we started here, we ended here. The other fun things to play with, because we're not done yet, here you have an edit option box. I'm not going to play with that because I haven't done it before, but you can heal things, feather and adjust the opacity. You can also clone. And again, just like any other cloning tool, it's going to have you select the area that you're looking at, same as heal. You can see it has that cute little target that comes up. You can play with the size of your brush. Are you feathering? Is there opacity? Next is creating a new mask. So you can select that subject. You can select a sky to put in the background if she had a sky to replace. You can use a linear gradient. So just like the other gradients that we've used, or a radial. Again, the radial will come out from the center. Your linear is going to have lines. You can play with the color range, the luminance range. Apparently depth range isn't selected for this particular image, but there's a lot of stuff that can come up. If you have a image with red eye, you can get that fixed. And on here, your final, there are some options to play with. And again, I'm just going to slide through these. And again, just whatever you think is the ideal look. And each of these is going to have its own set of options. So again, it can convert to the black and white. There's cinematic style. Again, just where do you want to end with it? So there are endless things you could do with this. It is the tool I get lost in every single time. So anyhow, you have all these other fun drop downs, colors, creative. It is endless and fabulous. So I am not going to run through each and every one of these, as some of these are very similar to one another, but I'm going to encourage you, as always, play with it, have fun, be bold, get dramatic, don't worry about making a mistake. If you don't like it, start over. Not a big deal, ever. More than half of what most of us do ends up not getting completed as the way we started it. We come back to it, but that's the fun of it. The more you try, the more you're going to learn. I'm going to slide this over again, just so you can see this is the image we started with. This was the end result we're at the moment. I'm going to come back up here. Let's go to Portraits, Light Skin. And again, you can just play. What looks good to you? What do you think would be the absolute best fit for the image and for the person you're designing for, if you know them well enough to ask that question. But oh, fun. If you have questions, suggestions, anything I've missed, anything I confused you on, please let me or your mentor know. Ideally your mentor first if I'm not your mentor. They can walk you through, and there's a good chance they know things that I don't. But have fun, and please, again, if you have questions, let us know. Thank you very much for your time.